going to look at the MaskedTextBox Control. This control is an enhanced text box control that aids the program in accepting or rejecting user input. Using the mask property, you can specify input without writing any custom validation logic in your application. You can specify the following output: required input characters, optional input characters, the type of input expected at a given position in the mask, for example, a digit or an alphabetic or alphanumeric character, mask literals or characters that should appear directly in the mask text box, for example, the hyphen in a phone number or the currency symbol in a price. Special processing for input characters, for example, to convert alphabetic characters to uppercase. The commonly used properties are: there's a name, unique ID to refer to a specific control and code. The enable property, control can be enabled or not. This default is enabled. The font, you can change the name, the size, make it bold, a few other things. Location, the X and Y are horizontal and vertical positions on the form. And the mask, one of the most important properties, sets the string governing the input allowed for this control. And this is where we'll focus most of what we're doing. There's also the prompt character. It's a character used as a placeholder. And you can change the size, the width in pixels, and the height in pixels. The tab index is a sequence or order in which the control will get the focus when the user hits the tab key, just like a text box. The text is the text associated with the control, the prompt or user entry. And visible. The control can be visible or invisible. The default is visible. There's the default event. Name masked input rejected. It fires when the entry is invalid. There's a list of the things you can use for the mask. 0, for example, requires digits required. 9, digits or space optional. A pound sign, digit or space optional. This is a position as blank in the mask. It will be rendered as a space on text property. L for letter required. Question mark for letter optional. Ampersand sign for character required. C, character optional. A, alphanumeric is required. Small a, alphanumeric optional. And there's also period. The decimal placeholder, it's the actual display character used will be the decimal symbol appropriate for the format provider. There's a comma, 1000 placeholder, the colon, the time separator, a slash for the date separator, a $sign is the currency symbol, less than symbol is shift down, converts all characters following to a lowercase. Greater than symbol, shift up, converts all characters that follow to uppercase. The bar, display a previous shift up or shift down. The backslash is the escape character. Let's take a look and see how this happens. It's very easy to put the mask checkbox on. It's sitting in the common control area, and if you just click on it, you can easily move it into this area right in here. And our properties are displayed in the normal property area. What I'm going to do is I do want to make this a little bit larger, and I'm going to change it right away. So we're looking at fonts that are, bold, and let's go with a 10. And what I'm going to do with this thing, I'm going to give you a demonstration basically by setting this up as if we were going to enter a course for a school of some kind. So I'm going to basically grab a label and place it on here, and this will be enter a course. And what I'm going to do then is also create a label where I'm going to output what it does. We're going to take a look at this particular text box right here, and I'm going to give it a name. In Hungarian notation, I'm going to call this thing MaskedTextBox, or MTB, input 1, and leave it at that. I've already named this particular label out 1, and I have nothing labeled here because it's simply a label. We're not going to be doing anything with this. I do want a button on the bottom of this thing, so I'm going to go and grab a button, put it on the course, but I want to go ahead and change this thing to button do it, and we'll say do it right on the button. And we'll change the font on it right away so it corresponds to everything else we've got here by making it bold and 10. And then just make it a little bit larger as we go along here. At the same time, I'm going to grab myself an exit button, lay it on here so I can play with it later. And we'll call this guy button exit, BTN EXIT. And right away we'll write the code for this thing. And simply say close form. And we're all set to go there. Now, what I want to do with this mask text box, we can kind of line these guys up right away. Align their middles so they're kind of even there. They're all size 10 with a bold font. What I want to do is I want to have a course number going into this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and change. I'm going to actually create a mask for this thing. And the mask is going to look something like this. We'll go down to the property where it says mask. And you'll notice that you can go in here and change it to a bunch of different kinds of things you want. So I have something unique here. I want to actually create a mask for a class. I want to require capital letters in the first 3 positions. I want to have a dash, and then I want to have numerics for the next thing, for like CIS 130. So what I'm going to do for that mask, I'm going to actually say LLL-000. This is going to allow me to put in alphabetic characters here and numeric characters here. And if I go ahead and say OK on this thing, you notice that the mask also shows me what it's going to appear like on my form. And you can see that up here now as you're looking at it. We can run this very simply, do a file save on it, and go ahead and do a start. And we can easily type in CIS 130. I don't have to do any spacing or anything. I just click it in there. Notice there's like a lowercase and uppercase in there. And it was fine. I can then tap off of it and it goes down to the do it button, which doesn't have any code in it for it right now. But it's sitting like that. Now, another thing it can do is we can actually go ahead and, let's go ahead and move this over to this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the do it label here and add some code. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically say LBL out1, which is my first label, .text is equal to MTB input1.text. And you'll see what actually transfers when I move this in there. So we'll do this right now, do a file save, and we'll do a run. Put in our CIS again, CIS 130, hit the do it button, and it transfers everything over, including the dash, as you can notice. So it's coming along with it, so we can pre-code this thing. There's ways of stopping it from actually having this dash come in there and bring in just the text itself. But for practical purposes right now, we're just bringing it all over. Now, what happens if you type in something bad? I don't have a clear button. Let's put a clear button here right away, too, because we're going to be doing some clearing on this. So let's go ahead and make a copy of this guy, call it clear, and button clear, BTN CLEAR. We'll move it into the middle of these guys right here, align their tops. Horizontal spacing can be made equal, another sitting there, and we'll actually send them on the form right away, too. That's fine right there. So there they are. Let's go ahead and write the clear button. What we want the clear button to do is basically set the MaskedTextBox input1.text equal to, quote, quote, nothing in it. And we also want to say that label out1.text is going to be equal to, quote, quote. We're going to clear that out right away. And then we're going to set our focus. So we're going to mtb input1.focus. And that'll set that up for us. Now, what I want to show you is when I go ahead and type in, say, nothing in here and go down to do it, it brings over a dash. Clear that out. Try it again. I'll put in 4.5. Notice 4.5. I'm trying to type in 4.5 right now. It's not taking that because it wants only alphabetic characters in there, but it's not telling me anything on that. So if I do a CIS again and then try to type in RRR, it doesn't let me do that because it's looking for numbers to follow. So we'll do 130, and it works out just fine. It comes in there. But we want this to actually display, and that's where the event comes into play. So we're going to go down and exit this thing out, and we're going to go to the form, and we're going to double-click on the text box. That raises the masked input rejected. And all we're going to do here is say that MessageBox.show, and we'll say invalid input, and then say example CIS-130, and then put a semicolon after this. So now if we run this little guy here, and I put in a number, there it is, invalid example, CIS-130. Okay, well, I guess that's telling me that. How about CI7? Nope, still invalid example, CIS-130. Okay, CIS or CSI, or CSO, whatever, and then R. Nope, says 130. So it's kind of giving me the information what's looking for here. So you can actually type in the character and then go ahead and make it all happen. The interesting thing is this is not perfect. This is going to get rid of a lot of your validation that you do when you're actually writing code. However, it isn't perfect. For example, assume I needed a CIS, a 3-digit character in here, and I only typed in CI and then hit a blank and then did the 130. It's going to take this, even though I want it to be CIS 130. So you would need to write some code to check for those kinds of things if you're looking at it. You can block this thing into pieces and maybe make 2 mask text boxes, one for capital letters and one for numbers, and then look at the size to see if the size is big enough or the right size, so on down the line. But let's take a look at another example. Let's go ahead and close this thing off. And let's consider creating another text box. Call this required input characters right away. I'm going to put that in front here. And let's kind of, I think we're okay with this like this. Yeah, let's move these over just a little bit here. Give ourselves some room. And then put this guy right in here. And since we've got this already centered here, we're going to go ahead and hit this guy. And then format, align the middles. And they're right in place now. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to do the actual input characters. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in another text box. Already got this kind of pre-coded here so we can save some time. We'll bring this guy up and I'll bring this thing over. In fact, what I'm going to do is, well, this is fine. That's perfect right there. This is going to become as large as this. And I think we're set on this thing. Yeah, there it is. And we'll bring this thing out here. Maybe they bring this thing in here so we're lining up the colons. And we're looking pretty good here. That looking pretty good too. And let's go ahead and get all these guys here and line them up, align their middles, and now they're perfectly in place here. We have a zip code I want to try right now, so we're going to give this a shot right now. So what I did with this mask is I went ahead and I actually put in 0000-9999. This is going to require the zip code to be placed here by putting the zeros in here, and the 9999 are optional. So you might have a zip code and you know the first five digits, but you don't know the last 4. Well, we're going to allow this thing to take in the 5 and then take in the 4. This does not work perfectly, by the way. So if we go ahead and go look at this thing, in fact, I think we need some code on this right away. We're going to go ahead and do it on here. We're going to go ahead and take that zip code, which I've named lblzipout.text and then mtbzipcode.text, and put it in place right here. I also want to clear it right away, so I'm going to go ahead and set the clearing on this thing, and we're going to say that the lbl zip code zipout.text is equal to quote quote, and we're going to say that mtb zip code.text is equal to quote quote, and that'll clear that guy for us so we can play with it a number of times. Let's also create the exit for this thing, the error. We'll go ahead and click on the zip code here and click our mask input rejected particular thing here. And we're going to say basically that the message box must have 5-digit zip code at a minimum. So we're going to set it up that way. Do a file save all, and do a start. Now we'll do our CIS 130. We'll just let that happen as we do it. And we can do our 45334 and then our 2323, and it works out fine. We'll do our check on this, and we get this. Notice that it got rid of the dash. Why is that? It's because in one of the properties we set up here is right down in here, we're excluding the prompt and literals. Where any prompts in there are going to be excluded from the mask format. If I take this out and include the prompts, include prompts and literals, both. Yeah, I can do that. I'll save all, run it. We'll do our CIS 130. We'll do our 54343, and we'll do our 1212 down here. Now we should be able to get the dash to come over, and indeed it does. It brings it over. So by using that one property, you can have the prompts in here and the literals in here to make it all work, but you can also exclude them if you'd like. So we're going to go back to this thing, and we're going to take this thing, and we're going to exclude the literal, so no dash appears in this thing. We're just going to set it up that way. Now let's look at one more. Oh, by the way, I can't type in because I've got it set up CIS 130, and we'll go with it jumped again. Did you see that thing jump? Yeah, let's back up once. That's what's going on. It's jumping forward a character. If I try to put in RT, I get an error. Must have 5-digit code at a minimum. So we're getting that kind of thing. Again, this thing is going to be problematic because if you put in 5454 and then hit a tab it goes down to do it. And you can actually bring this thing in now and run it and get the 5454 to show up without the literal. So if you want to make sure you've got 5 characters in here, you need to maybe break this thing down or check to see that the 5th position, bring it into a string and do a check on it to make sure that you've got all the characters in place. The mask validation doesn't do that for you, so you've got to kind of check on that thing. But it does help the user put in what they want to actually put in. Let's clear it all. And let's actually do one more thing. Let's make this a greater than. So I'm going to go ahead and exit this. I want to go to the CIS thing, so I don't have to look at that mask here. I'm going to go ahead and put in, let's go ahead and put a greater than sign in here in front. And this should force capitals no matter what I type in. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's go ahead and run it. Start. This time I'm just going to type in CIS without hitting any shift key. And that's exactly what's happening. We're forcing capitals to come in there rather than anything else. Hit the tab key, we bounce right down to the zip code thing. And if I type in RYRY, it doesn't. I get an error here. And I've got to type this in. 534323, whatever. And I can leave it now. So I was just getting a zip code. And remember, we're getting rid of the X, so I'll do it on that. Just the 5 come over. I don't bring in the rest because this is optional. This is not optional when I do that kind of thing. So let's clear this exit out. Let's try one more thing. Let's take a look at phone numbers. I'm going to grab what I've set up and pop it in here. And we'll place this into place here like this. Move this thing over and make this thing a little larger and get this guy right where he's supposed to be. This is looking pretty good vertically, so we're looking like we're okay here. We're going to go ahead and take this whole thing, and actually let's go ahead and grab him and make sure that we're all formatted with their middles, and they are. They're just fine. Oh, I brought them over from the other logic. So let's go ahead and look at this. We have a mask here. We're going to call this guy MTB phone, and we're calling this thing over here LBL phone out. And we didn't do anything with labels on this thing because we don't care. We're just going to put them out there. And we're going to go ahead and actually set up the format on this thing. So we're setting the phone number to look like this. Parentheses, 999, and parentheses, and the zeros on here. And we're going to exclude all prompt and literal. So we're going to bring in 10 numbers without any of these other things in here. This is more of a formatting just for the user to actually see. So I'm going to go to my Do It button. And what I want to do with that button right there is I want to grab the phone out and move it to the label. And I also want to go ahead and clear that stuff. So we're clearing it out. We'll say that LBL phone out, phone out text is equal to quote quote, and MTB phone text is also equal to quote quote semicolon. And we're going to also go ahead and double click on this mask here, or on this mask text box, to get the rejected event to pop up. And then we'll just put a simple message box that's an invalid phone number and set it up like that. Do a save on it. I want to go back to design real quickly and look at this thing. So we're bringing in basically optional area code, but we're requiring the numbers of the phone itself in there. And we actually grab this thing by looking at the format that's already been created for us through Microsoft. They put this thing in place so you can use that. No, zip code is in here too, I believe. Yeah, zip code's down here if you wanted to use it like that. I wouldn't create my own, but you can set it up like this. And so what we've got here is we've got what it's going to look like, and then we're going to go ahead and run it, and it should appear like this. So we'll go ahead and run this thing. File, save all, start, bring it in place. We've got our CIS all set up, so we're going to go ahead and CIS 130. We'll pop that in there like this. We'll put our zip code of 53434, and we'll give it a 2388. And we're going to bounce down to the phone, which I did not set the tab on there, so we're going to bounce around to find it. There it is. And we're going to set it up as, let's go with 800-454-2233 and see what we get. Go ahead and do it on here. Notice it brings in the phone number without any of the dashes, any of the parentheses. We're just getting the numbers straight, and that's fine. That's the way we set it up. If we've wanted that stuff in here, we could certainly do that. We could include the literals and the parentheses in here. But this kind of clears it up for us. It actually strips it down and gives us a variable that just has the numbers in it, and we can do whatever we want with it. Again, you can screw this thing up. The user can, so you've got to write some checks in here just to make sure you've got what you want here. For example, We'll clear it. CIS 130, zip code 53, whatever, 9988 or 00, whatever. And we'll bounce down here again. And this time we'll put in no area code. So we'll go ahead and hit space, space, space. And then we'll type in 343 and 228 and nothing else. And pop it in there and do it on here. And notice it brings in 333, 228, 343. It's bringing it in, getting rid of the stuff in here, but we don't have a complete number. So you're going to want to write the code that's going to check for those sizes. You can do that very easily by simply bringing this thing in, checking the size, maybe using strings to make sure you've got the right positions and that the thing is fully 10 characters long or 7 characters long or whatever you're looking for when you're actually looking for it, and do it that way. But it is an aid in helping the user put in what you're looking for. You don't have to start spelling out that this has got to be caps, it's got to be this and that, because you can show caps here. You can force dump numerics only and not let them put in letters, stuff like that, and all that's great. And this is very good. As you play with it more, you can do more and more things with this particular masked text box and make it work. That's it in a nutshell, basically what it does.